The deck crew had bets she wouldn't make it back. Minutes later, her jet's wheels touched down in the blinding fog, straight down the center line. For 8 months aboard USS Gerald R. Ford, aviators had watched Lieutenant Junior Grade Rebecca Ghost Chen struggle through carrier qualification training during routine flight operations. Assuming her obvious nervousness during standard approach procedures reflected nothing more than typical rookie pilot inexperience rather than recognizing the calculated restraint of someone whose classified Air Force career had involved flying stealth reconnaissance missions over the most heavily defended airspace in the world, requiring her to navigate through advanced radar systems and surface-to-air missile threats while maintaining radio silence during missions where detection could trigger international incidents that would compromise entire intelligence operations and endanger diplomatic relationships across multiple theaters of classified aerial surveillance. What they couldn't see beneath her Navy flight suit and junior officer insignia was a distinctive nerve damage pattern in her right hand, marking where ejection seat injuries during emergency bailout had damaged motor function when her classified surveillance aircraft had been compromised over hostile territory, forcing her to maintain manual flight control for 6 continuous hours while evading enemy fighters through mountainous terrain using only terrain-following radar and night vision. Systems that enabled her escape during the most dangerous aerial reconnaissance mission where her piloting expertise meant survival for intelligence assets who depended on her navigation skills under impossible combat flight conditions. Welcome to Silent Salute, where we reveal how America's most skilled reconnaissance pilots sometimes transition between service branches while carrying invisible reminders of classified aerial operations. Their extraordinary flight expertise hidden beneath training difficulties while their combat-tested knowledge remains dormant until crisis moments that transform entire carrier operations and remind everyone that heroes continue serving in unexpected ways through technical competence that transcends rank insignia and maintains operational readiness. Before we share this incredible story of hidden expertise that shocked an entire carrier air wing when weather emergency revealed years of classified reconnaissance experience, tell us in the comments about a time when you discovered someone's aviation background that completely changed your understanding of their capabilities and the dangerous missions they flew in hostile airspace. And if you believe that our most experienced pilots often serve without recognition while processing combat memories through activities that help maintain connection to military service and honor fallen aircrew, hit that subscribe button to support our mission of celebrating those whose classified courage continues protecting freedom through aviation service that transcends branch rivalries and reminds us that pilot instincts never truly fade from active flight operations. The USS Gerald R. Ford Flight Operations Center operated as floating aviation command hub where Navy pilots conducted continuous carrier operations that required precision landing skills and weather assessment capabilities, supported by deck crews whose specialized knowledge enabled flight safety through aircraft handling, weather monitoring, and emergency response coordination during operations that demanded perfect timing and flawless execution in maritime environments where pilot errors could prove catastrophic to both aircrew and ship personnel. The carrier itself represented strategic aviation platform supporting ongoing naval operations where American pilots conducted training missions and readiness exercises designed to maintain carrier aviation capabilities and project naval power, supported by flight operations personnel whose specialized aviation knowledge enabled mission success through technical expertise, flight coordination, and safety management during extended deployment periods that tested every aspect of naval aviation, infrastructure, and emergency response capabilities. Flight Operations Officer Commander Michael Trapp Rodriguez managed carrier aviation with military precision that ensured flight safety met demanding requirements of shipboard operations, where landing accuracy and weather assessment determined mission effectiveness during flight operations that required functioning aircraft and properly coordinated approaches for pilot protection in maritime environments where landing failures could compromise entire carrier operations and endanger personnel. Rodriguez possessed extensive naval aviation experience, including multiple carrier deployments and advanced flight training, providing him with operational expertise and aviation knowledge that enabled him to recognize exceptional flight skills while identifying pilots whose stress responses and technical precision suggested aviation backgrounds that exceeded normal Navy pilot training and preparation for carrier aviation operations requiring specialized landing capabilities. The carrier aviation community included pilots from various backgrounds whose specialized knowledge enhanced flight effectiveness, while flight operations personnel provided aircraft coordination and safety support that enabled pilots to focus on mission execution rather than routine flight management tasks that required dedicated attention and professional competence during life-threatening aviation environments where coordination failures could compromise flight operations. Daily carrier operations included continuous flight training, weather assessment, and emergency response management designed to support naval aviation and carrier readiness. From basic carrier landings to advanced weather operations whose flight success demanded aviation excellence that exceeded normal military training and prepared carriers for crisis scenarios where aviation superiority provided tactical advantage during emergency response operations and weather challenges. Chen, you've been managing approach procedures with caution that suggests familiarity with advanced weather flying techniques beyond standard Navy carrier training, Commander Rodriguez observed during routine flight briefing, his aviation curiosity finally overcoming military restraint about pilot backgrounds. Your approach to instrument procedures and weather assessment indicates experience with complex aviation operations that goes beyond normal carrier pilot preparation. Have you considered advanced positions that would better utilize whatever aviation background prepared you for this level of technical competence around challenging flight environments and precision approach procedures? Chen continued her systematic pre-flight routine with precision learned during actual reconnaissance operations where navigation failures meant mission compromise for intelligence units, depending on stealth aircraft capabilities. Understanding that proper flight preparation enabled operational effectiveness during combat situations where technical breakdown could endanger lives of fellow service members who trusted aviation reliability under life-threatening combat conditions and enemy air defense scenarios. Her flight management reflected military training that emphasized systematic procedures, operational security, and professional competence with advanced aircraft systems that enabled her to work efficiently while maintaining safety standards that protected flight effectiveness and personnel safety during intensive carrier operations that pushed aviation systems beyond normal operational parameters in high-stress maritime environments. Commander, effective flight management ensures operational readiness and aviation reliability that enables mission effectiveness and flight safety. Chen replied carefully, her response revealing nothing about classified experience while acknowledging professional observation. These approach procedures support operational readiness and flight functionality that requires systematic approach and attention to detail that sustains carrier operations and protects personnel during complex aviation scenarios. Aviation Operations Coordinator Commander Lisa Weather Chen, whose responsibility for flight performance included evaluating pilot competence and identifying aviators whose capabilities might be underutilized in standard training positions, had begun questioning Chen's apparent overqualification for routine carrier operations that seemed inconsistent with her obvious aviation expertise and professional bearing around advanced flight systems during carrier operations. Chen possessed aviation knowledge about pilot backgrounds and qualifications that enabled her to identify unusual patterns in flight performance, making Chen's situation particularly puzzling because her aviation expertise and systematic bearing suggested experience that exceeded current training requirements and might warrant advancement to specialized flight responsibilities involving direct mission support and advanced weather operations. Chen, your aircraft systems knowledge and weather flight management suggest background that exceeds typical Navy pilot preparation for carrier operations, Chen observed during flight evaluation meeting, her aviation curiosity reflecting genuine interest in appropriate pilot placement. Most Navy pilots require extensive carrier qualification to understand shipboard aviation systems and weather procedures, but you immediately adapted to procedures that require flight expertise and comfort with advanced systems that suggest specialized background or training that might be better utilized in advanced positions involving direct operational support. Chen's response reflected understanding gained from Air Force service while maintaining privacy about classified experience that she wasn't ready to discuss with supervisors who couldn't fully comprehend the psychological challenges that accompanied transition from reconnaissance aviation to Navy carrier employment in military environment where flight operations triggered combat memories requiring continued private management through specialized counseling designed for classified aviation veterans. Her careful balance between acknowledging flight competence and protecting personal privacy required diplomatic responses that satisfied administrative curiosity without revealing classified background that might complicate her Navy integration or trigger unwanted attention to medical issues that required ongoing treatment through specialized trauma therapy designed for reconnaissance pilots whose classified missions had involved life-or-death navigation decisions. Commander, effective aviation management requires understanding of flight procedures and aircraft functionality that enable carrier operations and mission effectiveness. Chen responded diplomatically, maintaining professionalism while protecting privacy. Flight competence develops through systematic approach and attention to detail that ensures aviation reliability and operational readiness during carrier scenarios that require professional handling of advanced systems and weather flight protocols. The curiosity intensified when carrier personnel noticed Chen's apparent familiarity with advanced aviation systems and weather management methods that exceeded normal Navy pilot training, leading to speculation about her background and previous experience that might explain her exceptional flight expertise and comfortable handling of complex aircraft that required specialized knowledge typically possessed only by personnel with extensive military aviation operations experience. Her comfort with various weather scenarios particularly attracted attention because she demonstrated familiarity with flight procedures that most Navy pilots never encountered, including reconnaissance flight patterns, stealth navigation methods, and operational security approaches that required technical knowledge typically possessed only by personnel with extensive Air Force experience or specialized training backgrounds in classified aviation environments. Aviation Systems Specialist Commander Robert Stealth Martinez, whose own operational experience included classified flight operations and advanced aviation instruction, organized informal observations designed to assess whether Chen's apparent expertise represented actual reconnaissance experience or exceptional civilian training that had developed extraordinary flight competence with advanced aircraft systems. Martinez possessed flight expertise and operational background that enabled him to recognize advanced aviation operations skills, having worked with Air Force personnel and military pilots whose backgrounds included classified experience that exceeded normal training requirements and suggested specialized service in hostile aviation environments during classified aerial missions. Chen, your handling of aircraft systems and navigation expertise suggests specialized training that exceeds Navy preparation and indicates background in reconnaissance operations or tactical aviation. Martinez observed during flight systems session, his operational experience enabling him to recognize capabilities that suggested Air Force training or specialized aviation background. If your experience includes Air Force service or specialized training, you should understand aviation systems that prepare pilots for working with advanced flight techniques and operational security methods that require technical expertise. Chen recognized the questioning as professional interest from fellow aviator rather than casual curiosity, understanding that military pilots developed bonds based on shared operational experience, while maintaining natural interest in backgrounds that couldn't be verified through normal administrative channels or personnel records that might not fully document pilot qualifications for classified aviation positions. Her response required careful consideration of privacy needs balanced against professional respect for fellow pilot, whose flight competence and operational experience deserved acknowledgement without revealing details about medical retirement and combat trauma that had ended her Air Force career while requiring continued psychological processing through specialized therapy designed for reconnaissance pilots whose navigation decisions had saved intelligence operations. Martinez, aviation systems require technical understanding and systematic management that ensures flight effectiveness and mission success that protect personnel during carrier operations. Chen replied respectfully, her military background enabling her to provide flight response without revealing classified service details. These capabilities develop through consistent attention to detail and understanding of technical requirements that maintain aviation standards and flight effectiveness during weather scenarios. The workplace speculation escalated when Navy personnel began discussing Chen's apparent overqualification for training duties, leading to conversations about her motivations for transferring to Navy service that seemed beneath her obvious flight competence and aviation expertise that suggested Air Force or reconnaissance background that warranted advanced responsibilities involving direct mission support and weather flight operations. These discussions occurred during informal gatherings after flight operations, when carrier personnel shared experiences and discussed aviation operations, creating an environment where Chen's privacy about her background became increasingly noticeable to pilots who understood military aviation culture and recognized signs of operational experience that exceeded normal Navy backgrounds and suggested classified service history. Carrier Air Wing Commander Captain James Storm Thompson, whose responsibility for overall aviation effectiveness included ensuring appropriate utilization of pilot capabilities and identifying personnel whose skills might enhance carrier readiness, decided that direct inquiry might reveal information that would explain Chen's unusual competence and determine appropriate flight placement that maximized her apparent aviation expertise. Thompson possessed command experience and operational background that enabled him to recognize exceptional pilots and identify individuals whose capabilities exceeded their current positions, making his interest in Chen's background both professionally motivated and personally curious about pilot transition challenges that he understood from his own experience in Navy aviation operations community. Chen, I've observed your flight handling and aviation competence during carrier operations, and I'm curious about your background and qualifications that prepared you for this level of expertise with aircraft systems, Thompson stated during private meeting, his tone reflecting command interest rather than casual inquiry. Your performance suggests experience that exceeds normal Navy pilot capabilities, and your professional bearing indicates background that might be better utilized in advanced positions that require specialized aviation knowledge and flight expertise that could enhance our carrier operations. Chen understood the implications of Captain Thompson's inquiry, but chose not to reveal classified service that would complicate her Navy integration while potentially triggering security evaluations and medical assessments that could affect her flight status and personal privacy regarding combat trauma and psychological treatment that supported her service transition and recovery from operational stress. Her decision reflected careful consideration of career stability needs that protected her flight qualifications while maintaining therapeutic routine that had become an essential part of her recovery from combat trauma and adjustment to Navy service that required gradual healing rather than sudden exposure to command scrutiny that might compromise her progress through specialized treatment programs designed for reconnaissance pilots. Captain, my aviation background has prepared me for flight management that supports carrier operations and mission readiness through systematic approach and attention to detail that ensures flight effectiveness. Chen replied carefully, maintaining respect for his rank while protecting personal privacy. These Navy responsibilities provide meaningful service that utilizes relevant skills while supporting naval missions that require professional competence and aviation consciousness around advanced aircraft systems. The incident that would expose Chen's hidden identity occurred during severe weather emergency, when visibility dropped to zero and automated landing systems failed, creating a situation where her instinctive response to instrument flight crisis revealed specialized capabilities that immediately attracted attention from carrier personnel familiar with professional weather flying and emergency approach procedures learned through advanced aviation training and weather operations experience. This weather scenario existed to test carrier response capabilities during actual flight emergencies that could threaten pilot lives, while enabling aviation personnel to demonstrate approach techniques that might be required during system failures or weather conditions that could compromise flight safety during intensive operations that pushed aviation capabilities beyond normal operational parameters in life-threatening maritime environments. Flight Emergency Coordinator Commander Patricia Approach Williams was supervising Chen's participation in weather emergency when instrument failure required immediate precision approach, exposing Air Force capabilities that immediately triggered recognition based on her own operational experience and familiarity with advanced techniques that suggested specialized training recognizable to experienced naval aviation personnel. The emergency scenario involved zero-visibility approach with potential carrier collision, requiring rapid instrument navigation, emergency approach planning, and flight coordination that tested every aspect of naval aviation emergency response while maintaining flight safety protocols that protected both pilot effectiveness and carrier safety during high-stress crisis situations. Chen's response to the flight emergency demonstrated Air Force capabilities that exceeded normal Navy pilot training, including reconnaissance navigation techniques, stealth approach skills, and weather flight management that suggested extensive training in Air Force reconnaissance operations and crisis aviation that characterized Air Force training rather than Navy carrier aviation certification programs. Her emergency performance revealed specialized techniques for maintaining effectiveness during weather crisis operations, efficient navigation procedures, and safety protocols that indicated training designed for combat situations where aviation expertise meant mission success and aircrew survival during hostile environments and enemy air defense scenarios that required professional competence. But what truly exposed Chen's background wasn't just her approach techniques. It was what happened after the initial emergency response, when she continued managing instrument approach for another 2 hours, conducting systematic navigation procedures that no Navy pilot would understand, using reconnaissance methods that could only be learned through Air Force training, while demonstrating stress management that suggested extensive experience with life-or-death flight decisions during classified operations. When Commander Williams finally cleared Chen for landing at 2,100 hours, she had completed perfect instrument approach in zero-visibility conditions using navigation protocols that should have required specialized reconnaissance training. But her flight effectiveness remained professionally flawless due to specialized techniques and operational conditioning that only Air Force reconnaissance pilots learned during weather training designed for stealth operations under hostile air defenses. Ma'am, those navigation techniques and weather approach capabilities appear consistent with advanced Air Force training from specialized reconnaissance programs, Williams observed with professional recognition, her operational experience enabling her to identify skills that suggested Air Force training rather than Navy carrier aviation certification. These capabilities typically develop through intensive programs that prepare personnel for weather operations during Air Force missions and hostile navigation scenarios that exceed normal training requirements. Chen realized that emergency response requirements had exposed classified Air Force capabilities that she had been concealing for service integration reasons. Understanding that her specialized reconnaissance aviation skills would trigger questions about her military background and service transition that might complicate her Navy status, while drawing unwanted attention to combat experiences that required continued private management. The Air Force capabilities that Commander Williams discovered represented years of specialized training and specific classified experience that included technical details about stealth aircraft operations, reconnaissance navigation procedures, and weather management techniques that had saved intelligence missions during combat scenarios that tested every aspect of her specialized training and personal courage under extreme aerial combat stress and enemy air defenses. Captain Thompson, summoned to examine the discovered aviation capabilities and assess their implications for pilot background verification, immediately recognized the tactical navigation techniques as consistent with Air Force reconnaissance training that suggested extensive classified experience rather than Navy carrier aviation certification or normal flight training that might occur during standard Navy pilot development at carrier operations. Commander Williams, document these capabilities and request immediate verification of this pilot's military service record, Thompson instructed, his command experience recognizing that specialized Air Force aviation skills indicated service background that should have been documented during Navy integration process. These navigation techniques suggest operational training that typically accompanies classified deployments and Air Force service that requires appropriate recognition and support services for transitioning pilots. The verification process that followed Chen's recognition revealed her actual military service record as decorated Air Force veteran whose classified deployments had included multiple reconnaissance operations in hostile aviation environments. While her service transition documentation explained transfer from Air Force to Navy that utilized her aviation expertise while supporting her psychological recovery from combat trauma and reconnaissance stress. Military records review disclosed extent of her classified service that included stealth aircraft missions, reconnaissance navigation operations, and weather management experiences that had earned commendations for excellence under extreme aerial combat conditions. While medical documentation explained the psychological challenges and combat stress that had necessitated service transition and ongoing specialized trauma counseling services designed for reconnaissance pilots. Captain Thompson, reviewing Chen's classified military records and operational experience, realized that his carrier had received a decorated Air Force reconnaissance pilot, whose aviation expertise and military experience exceeded virtually all Navy personnel and represented exceptional qualifications that deserved recognition and appropriate utilization in advanced flight positions supporting carrier operations. His understanding of Chen's situation immediately shifted from administrative curiosity about skilled pilot to command responsibility for supporting Air Force veteran whose service record demanded respect and whose transition challenges required appropriate accommodation and recognition of her sacrifices for reconnaissance aviation and national security missions at the highest classification levels. Involving navigation decision-making. Lieutenant Chen, your military service record shows extensive Air Force reconnaissance operations and aviation expertise throughout multiple classified deployment theaters, including missions that earned recognition for extraordinary excellence under extreme aerial combat conditions, Thompson said during private meeting, his tone reflecting command respect for service sacrifice. Your Navy integration should have documented years of Air Force service and the circumstances of your transition following operational assignments that exemplify aviation excellence and operational courage that deserves appropriate recognition and support. Chen's response reflected the dignity of someone whose classified experience had prepared her for recognition while maintaining privacy about medical issues and combat memories that had complicated her transition from reconnaissance aviation to Navy carrier service that provided stability during challenging adjustment period requiring specialized psychological treatment for classified trauma survivors and navigation. Stress management. Her careful acknowledgement balanced appreciation for respect with continued need for privacy about classified experiences that required ongoing psychological treatment and personal healing that service recognition might complicate despite good intentions from Navy personnel who understood pilot transition challenges and combat trauma recovery from reconnaissance coordination responsibilities. Captain, my Air Force service included classified operations and reconnaissance training responsibilities that prepared me for Navy service that supports carrier missions, Chen replied respectfully, maintaining dignity while acknowledging recognition. When this Navy opportunity became available, my Air Force experience provided relevant background for aviation operations while allowing continued military service that supports my personal recovery and transition goals. The investigation that followed Chen's recognition revealed administrative oversight that had failed to properly document her Air Force reconnaissance pilot status during Navy integration process. While her classified experience record explained her exceptional performance and familiarity with aviation systems that had exceeded normal Navy pilot capabilities and attracted professional attention from carrier personnel who understood advanced flight competence. Administrative review disclosed that service transition process hadn't included adequate coordination procedures between Air Force and Navy, creating situation where decorated reconnaissance pilot had been integrated as standard Navy pilot without appropriate recognition of service background that deserved special consideration and might have qualified her for advanced positions that better utilized her aviation expertise and combat experience. Aviation Specialist Martinez, whose own operational experience included reconnaissance operations and advanced flight training, approached Chen with obvious professional respect for Air Force service that represented shared military culture and operational experience that created bonds between military pilots regardless of service branch or current assignment status in Navy carrier operations. Martinez's response reflected understanding that Chen's background represented service excellence that transcended normal recognition while acknowledging that Navy service provided meaningful employment that honored Air Force experience through continued military service that prepared Navy personnel for operational deployment and aviation challenges in hostile environments. Rebecca, Your Air Force reconnaissance experience and aviation expertise demonstrate continued dedication to service excellence that honors military background while supporting current carrier operations. Martinez said with genuine respect, his own military background enabling him to appreciate significance of Chen's service record. Your transition to Navy service while maintaining professional competence honors Air Force tradition and provides invaluable expertise that enhances carrier capabilities through example of extraordinary service dedication and operational excellence. The demonstration that followed Chen's recognition became legendary moment for entire carrier, illustrating how Air Force reconnaissance veterans sometimes served in Navy roles while contributing operational experience and aviation expertise that enhanced mission effectiveness through unique understanding of weather requirements and tactical realities that prepared Navy personnel for deployment challenges and flight scenarios that required precision decision-making under operational stress. Navy personnel learned that Chen's flight services represented more than pilot responsibility, but continued military service that honored her classified experience, while providing meaningful work that supported her transition between service branches that maintained connection to military community and operational purpose that gave meaning to continued military career and contribution to national security. Lieutenant Chen represents the kind of operational experience and aviation expertise that defines Air Force excellence and extraordinary precision that inspires everyone in our carrier environment. Captain Thompson announced during Air Wing formation that acknowledged her service without compromising classified details. Her Air Force background and continued competence demonstrate professionalism that enhances our carrier mission while honoring classified service that exemplifies military values and operational courage under the most extreme aerial combat circumstances imaginable. The specialized weather flying program that Chen agreed to establish became legacy that enhanced carrier aviation capabilities while providing her with meaningful service that honored her classified background by ensuring personnel received training that could prevent casualties during flight operations and weather procedures that required professional expertise developed through Air Force operational experience and reconnaissance management under hostile conditions. Her willingness to share aviation knowledge without revealing classified operational details created educational opportunities that prepared Navy personnel for weather situations where her Air Force-proven expertise could prove critical during actual operations and flight challenges that exceeded standard training scenarios and required specialized techniques learned through extreme aerial circumstances and reconnaissance coordination responsibilities. Her classified aviation expertise transformed carrier weather procedures while creating educational opportunities that prepared personnel for crisis situations where her Air Force knowledge could prove critical during actual missions and flight challenges that required technical competence and professional handling that honored Air Force standards and operational excellence under combat stress. Chen's influence extended beyond flight instruction to include lessons about professional competence, Air Force bearing, and service dedication that inspired carrier personnel to approach their responsibilities with greater appreciation for Air Force veterans whose expertise enhanced aviation effectiveness, while honoring sacrifices made during classified service to national security missions that required reconnaissance decision-making. Captain Thompson, realizing that his assessment of Chen's capabilities had been based on incomplete understanding of her Air Force reconnaissance experience and military service, approached her with obvious command respect and appreciation for service record that represented the highest levels of Air Force excellence despite his extensive Navy aviation experience and carrier operations background. His understanding evolved from viewing her as transitioning pilot to recognizing her as Air Force reconnaissance veteran whose expertise and service sacrifice deserved the highest acknowledgement and whose transition challenges required Navy support that honored her Air Force background while supporting her continued military service and ongoing psychological treatment for combat trauma. Rebecca, I owe you formal recognition for your Air Force service and classified operations that represent military excellence and extraordinary aviation expertise that deserves the highest respect, Thompson said during private conversation, his command authority emphasizing profound sincerity of acknowledgement. Your classified record and reconnaissance expertise explain capabilities I never understood while your professional bearing reflects Air Force values that enhance our carrier operations. You've been contributing Air Force aviation knowledge to our mission while maintaining professionalism that characterizes airmen serving in Navy positions. Chen used her recognition to establish inter-service pilot support programs that combined Air Force experience with Navy aviation insights, creating assistance opportunities that help transitioning military personnel find meaningful service that honored their background while providing continued military purpose during challenging adjustment periods that required community support and understanding from fellow pilots and military personnel. Her program development reflected understanding that service transition required military assignment that maintained connection to aviation mission while providing healing opportunities that honored service sacrifice through continued contribution to military community that recognized operational experience and aviation expertise developed during classified service to national security missions requiring reconnaissance coordination under extreme aerial combat stress. The most important lesson from today's recognition and the ceremony that followed, Chen explained during pilot transition seminars that became standard throughout Navy aviation programs, is that Air Force experience and reconnaissance expertise continue serving military mission through Navy assignments that honor service background while supporting personal transition goals. Whether you're conducting classified operations or flying carrier missions, service excellence continues across service branches through professional competence that maintains military standards and operational readiness. The Navy assignment had provided Chen with opportunity to heal while processing combat trauma and medical challenges from her Air Force career, demonstrating that reconnaissance pilots could contribute effectively in different service branches while maintaining capabilities and service dedication that exceeded normal assignment expectations and inspired others through example of continued excellence despite psychological challenges from reconnaissance coordination responsibilities. Her therapeutic military routine had evolved into meaningful career that honored her Air Force service while providing military stability and personal satisfaction that supported her recovery from combat trauma and psychological challenges that required ongoing treatment and community support from military personnel who understood pilot transition difficulties and combat stress management for reconnaissance specialists. Admiral Patricia Aviation Rodriguez, visiting carrier operations for flight readiness assessment and aviation evaluation designed to identify best practices for pilot utilization, had requested tour of flight operations to evaluate aviation services that enabled mission success. When Captain Thompson introduced Chen and explained her Air Force reconnaissance background that had been recently discovered through weather emergency demonstration that revealed years of classified operational experience, Admiral Rodriguez's visit represented command-level interest in inter-service programs that effectively utilized veteran expertise while supporting transition challenges that affected military readiness and service support for personnel transferring between military branches for continued service that maintained connection to aviation mission and professional community that understood combat experience. Lieutenant Chen, your Air Force Reconnaissance Service represents operational excellence and aviation expertise that honors military tradition and demonstrates extraordinary service dedication, Admiral Rodriguez stated during carrier inspection, her command authority emphasizing significance of Chen's service record. Your transition to Navy service while maintaining professional competence demonstrates Air Force resilience and provides invaluable expertise that enhances carrier effectiveness through operational experience that cannot be replicated through any classroom instruction or simulation training programs. The Admiral's recognition of Chen's Air Force service created carrier-wide awareness of extraordinary veteran contributions to military mission, while her command acknowledgement of inter-service programs validated approaches that honored military service through continued assignments that utilized operational experience and aviation expertise for sustained military mission support and operational readiness in challenging deployment environments. Official command recognition of Chen's Air Force service record provided validation that her service transition represented extraordinary model for veteran assignment that could be replicated throughout military aviation, requiring reconnaissance expertise and professional competence that honored classified experience while supporting continued military service and career stability for transitioning Air Force reconnaissance pilots. Years later, when Chen established comprehensive inter-service pilot programs while maintaining carrier assignment and flight responsibilities that had supported her recovery. Her story continued inspiring personnel who understood that Air Force excellence often served in Navy positions where service records exceeded current assignments, but represented continued dedication to military mission through professional competence and aviation expertise. Her continued military career had created lasting impact that extended beyond individual transition to include Navy programs that served other pilots seeking meaningful assignments that honored their Air Force service, while providing military opportunities and community connection that supported successful transition between service branches and continued contribution to military mission readiness and aviation effectiveness. Her example reminded everyone that aboard USS Gerald R. Ford, as in all military installations employing inter-service personnel, the most extraordinary expertise often belonged to pilots whose Air Force service had been earned through reconnaissance operations, where precision meant protecting national security under impossible aerial combat conditions rather than seeking recognition or career advancement that characterized normal military progression through single-service careers. The moment when Admiral Rodriguez recognized her Air Force service had lasted only minutes, but its impact continued for years, demonstrating that military excellence often remained hidden until circumstances revealed capabilities that transformed understanding of service dedication and extraordinary sacrifice that continued serving through inter-service assignments that maintained connection to warrior culture and Air Force values that protected freedom through aviation superiority. Her story became inspiration for other Air Force reconnaissance veterans considering service transitions, proving that military excellence could continue through inter-service assignments that honored service background, while providing meaningful work that supported recovery from combat trauma and maintained connection to military mission that gave purpose to continued military careers and contribution to national security through professional competence. This story was brought to you by Silent Salute, where we honor America's hidden warriors who continue serving in ways that military communities rarely recognize, until circumstances reveal the extraordinary service backgrounds that make their current contributions possible through aviation expertise and professional competence earned during classified operations that shaped their character and capabilities under impossible aerial combat circumstances and reconnaissance coordination responsibilities. Before we leave you today, here's our question. Have you ever discovered that someone's flight skills revealed Air Force service that completely changed your understanding of their capabilities and the classified missions they flew during deployment operations that tested every aspect of their specialized training and reconnaissance navigation under extreme aerial combat stress? Have you worked alongside inter-service personnel whose professional competence masked previous military experience, while they served in different branch positions that seemed routine but represented continued service to military mission through aviation expertise earned during classified operations that protected national security? Tell us in the comments about moments when military capabilities were revealed and transformed your perspective on someone's service experience and continued commitment to excellence that honors fallen service members and operational sacrifice through professional competence that exceeds civilian understanding of specialized warfare requirements and reconnaissance coordination responsibilities. And if you believe that our most experienced military veterans often serve without recognition while carrying psychological reminders of aerial operations that shape their capabilities and dedication to service excellence, hit that subscribe button to support our channel's mission of honoring those whose military courage continues serving through inter-service positions that maintain connection to warrior culture and Air Force values that protect freedom through aviation superiority. Nobody questions Chen's flight expertise anymore. Not after Admiral Rodriguez recognized the Air Force reconnaissance service that revealed years of classified operations where her aviation competence and operational precision protected national security during missions that history may never fully record, but whose legacy continues through Navy service that honors military sacrifice while inspiring others toward excellence that transcends recognition and represents true warrior spirit that never retires from service to others and protection of freedom through aviation superiority.